What is going on, everybody? Welcome on inside the Browns beat on this beautiful, it's all of a sudden fall, rainy, cold October night here in Northeast Ohio. But it's not cold inside the Browns beat. Oh, no, because for the very first time, I know it's not the first of the season, but for the very first time on our brand new show here, Fred Greetham and I get to talk about a Cleveland Browns victory. We've not gotten a chance to do it before, and I am so excited for it. We're going to talk about the Browns' dominant victory over the Miami Dolphins, and we'll get you ready for next week's game with the New England Patriots. Should be a really interesting game to talk about, and in order to do that, at the 7:30 portion of the show, we will bring in from WTAM 1100 a guy that Fred has worked with a whole bunch and has done shows with a whole bunch. The one and only BloomDaddy is going to join us here inside the Browns beat, so you've tuned in on a great night as we are set to talk all things Cleveland Browns football. Fred, it feels good just to say it, doesn't it? It just feels good to say that we get to talk about a win.
Yeah, it's always much better than being negative and talking about all the things that went wrong. And there was things that went wrong, but more so things went right. And we've talked about it on here. I haven't talked about a win because I wasn't here the week that they beat the Packers, but they talk about complementary football, defense, offense, special teams, and I'm all for that, but I haven't seen it. And we saw it for the first time, this season in that win, not only did they get one turnover, they got 2, 3, 4, resulted in 21 points. That's the formula for success. We've talked about it all year. I was just looking, they were right at the bottom for a lot of the early part of the season, like 30th to 32nd at a -7 or 8. They whittled it down the last 3 weeks. They were -4 going into the game with the Dolphins, and they went to +4. So now they're neutral. They're 0. But that moved them from 26th all the way up to 14th. Just last week's performance. And that's huge. If you can come out on the plus side of the turnover ratio, but take advantage of those turnovers, they didn't do that against the Steelers or the Vikings. And now you have a real chance to win. So all the way around, I give kudos to the defense, but they took it to the next level. They shut down in the red zone, being the last defense in the league going into the game. They held them out without a touchdown. That's tough in the NFL. Just 2 field goals. And they were 1 of 13 holding the Dolphins on third down conversion. So all the way around, very good. And even the special teams chipped in with Grant Delpit. He was special teams player of the week. He forced that fumble. Rayshon Jenkins recovered it. The Browns got a touchdown on that. And then those guys teamed up throughout the day. I was really impressed with the safeties, as well as Tyson Campbell in his second game with the Browns, already making a big play.
Yeah, you know what? It was an interesting dynamic, Fred, in the beginning of the game. If you'll remember the Browns' first possession, they win the toss and they elect to get their offense out on the field, right? And they talked about it on the broadcast, like, whoa, all right, you thought maybe they'd want to set the tone with the defense, but Kevin Stefanski said, no, let's send the offense out there. And they did not set the tone on that first drive. They went out and 3-and-outed, and you could tell that it was volatile, because that's the point in the season we're reaching when you're 1-5. You could tell, Fred, that there was volatile feelings in the stadium, because the minute they go 3-and-out to start that first drive, you could hear it on TV. You could hear some of the boo birds start to come in, and you knew it was only going to get uglier and uglier. And then who would have saw it coming, Fred? 31 points for a team that hasn't scored 20 yet on the season. They go for 31. Defensively, I mean, MVPs everywhere for just setting the offense up for success. But even the defense getting into the scoring action, and all of a sudden, Fred, it went from feeling like, we could be hearing the boo birds at Huntington Bank Field to really just kind of a party atmosphere the whole rest of the game. Nobody let the rain hold them down. Everybody seemed like they were having a great time. It felt like just what the doctor ordered.
It was the defense, they took it the next step. Like I said, they not only made takeaways, but then the offense, they weren't explosive, but they did capitalize, in the short fields. Defense made sure one was a touchdown by returning it all the way. The other one, Jenkins, returned it to the 2-yard line. And then Quinshon Judkins, what we talked about last week is instead of throwing the ball 52 to 58 times, how about run the ball more than you pass? And they did that 33 times rushing as a team and only throw 18 passes. That's so much better for your young rookie quarterback and all the way around. And so, yeah, I can't find any fault. The only fault I had was, right near the first half, Browns are had 17-3. The Dolphins are driving. The Browns stop them, get off the field, force a field goal, and the kicker, old friend Riley Patterson, bangs it off the upright, no good. So they get out of there with no score because the Dolphins have the second half kickoff and even with a field goal. But what happens? Shelby Harris does some shenanigans with the long snapper and gets a personal foul. Gives them a first down on the 15-yard line. And the defense credit turned them away again. This time Patterson made the field goal, but 17-6, big difference from 17-10.
Yeah.
And then the pick six on the first play, set it in motion. So I can't complain about Kevin Stefanski taking the ball because I had been kind of saying you defer. I get that. But the other team goes down and scores a touchdown on the first drive almost every time, or a field goal, and you're behind 3-0 or 7-0, and you're playing catch up the rest of the game. So why not dictate it? They win the toss, take the ball, go 3 and out. So it's like, okay, you might as well have deferred. But all in all, not a lot to complain about, from this side of the fence.
And I want you to get in the comments with this question, but Fred, I feel like all Browns fans are probably going to be on the same page with this. And they're actually probably going to hear me ask this question and go, yeah, obviously. And they'll be yelling at the screen, but that's fine. You saw the game plan for this game. Quinshon Judkins finishes with 25 rushing attempts, but I want to say he had like 18, something like that in the first half.
17.
17 in the first half. And then they just didn't run as many offensive plays, and they got some other guys involved. And I love that because you don't want to just wear him out. Again, Dillon Gabriel, you said it. He only threw the ball 18 times. I know how I feel about this, but wouldn't you rather lose like that too? Like at this point with this roster. And I guess is the point. And it goes back to whether it was the Pittsburgh game or the Minnesota game or whatever, where you heard Kevin Stefanski say, well, the game was starting to get away from us a little bit, and we started throwing the ball, and we were like, the game wasn't getting away from you. You were within a score at that point in time when it happened. I would rather, if they're going to lose games, I'd rather come out with this game plan with this roster. Again, you got Dillon Gabriel. At no point should he ever be throwing 52 passes in a game for any reason. And you've got a good running game, and you've got a good running back going. And for the first time in a couple of years, that's what that looks like. Even if you're falling behind in games, like I hope this was like a little bit of an eye opener for Kev. Like, even if you're falling behind in games, play this style of football and see what happens, because this is your best approach to the game with the current roster that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely no explosiveness on the passing game to date. I mean, Dillon Gabriel started 3 games. His longest pass, I think, is 24 yards. They're not asking him to throw the ball downfield. We talked to him today about that, and he wants to be cautious. He knows, but he knows that the turnover ratio is so important in the NFL. So I think the coaches are asking him, and he's carrying out what they want from him. Talked about a little more mobility. That's what he's known for, being able to get out of the pocket and run a little bit. And he's saying he's feeling a little more comfortable about that. And I just think more and more it's going to grow. But you got to stay with the with the bread and butter, and that's the running game, especially when you have a back who can break one tackle. Just what I've been saying there. 1 yard, no yards, 2 yards, 46-yard touchdown, that
Right.
type of a guy. And I can hear a little bit of the moaning from the crowd when you have first down and he gets 1 yard and it's 2nd and 9, then 2 yards, it's 3rd and 7. But you got to keep doing that, because otherwise, what's your alternative? You get behind and you start chucking it all over the field, and that's not the formula for success right now with this team. And so I agree with you, and I think that you're going to we'll talk about the Patriots here in a little bit, but they haven't given up a guy that's rushed for over 50 yards yet this season. And so what they're going to do with Judkins. So they're going to force Gabriel and the Browns to be creative and move the ball and stretch the field with the passing game. But that doesn't mean you abandon running the ball. You ran 33 times. I'd keep running the ball, until you have no choice. And so that, to me, and when you look at it, Judkins has almost been more explosive. They don't have really any passes longer than his runs. He's had a 46-yard touchdown run. He had a 52-yard touchdown run called back. He had another run of 32. So if they miss a tackle, he's gone, or he breaks tackles. And so let him get him into, the offensive line. Hear Whitetail or something. They get fired up about it, Hey, if we can just get him, kind of like Nick Chubb, you can just get him to the second level, you got a chance to go all the way. So keep riding that. The only negative I see, I know they're trying to get Dylan Sampson involved, but I would still use Judkins out of the backfield. This is 2 weeks in a row now. He hasn't had a pass reception, and that's kind of like an extended handoff. You get him out there in space, he beats a linebacker, a safety, it can be a big gain. He had an 18-yard against the Vikings. So sprinkle some of that into the mix.
Well, we're seeing it. I'm seeing it a ton in the comments, and I knew nobody was going to disagree with that. But like our buddy Chad _username says, wide receivers are not reliable in perfect weather, let alone the rain. Rushing was the only logical plan. Ty Sox asks, did weather dictate a more conservative game plan? And if so, doesn't it prove it's a better game plan going forward? And I think that's it. I don't know if it was just a big weather situation where they decided we're going to run because of the weather. But Fred, if that's the case, Ty Sox makes a great point here. If that's the case, okay, maybe you did let weather dictate it a little bit because it was gross, it was wet, it was windy, not great ideal conditions for throwing the football, but you still played a good football game offensively. Maybe this should prove that that's the game plan going forward, right? Like maybe you just needed the weather to show you that that's what you should be doing.
Well, yeah, maybe, you mail a faulty or a made up weather, forecast to Stefanski on Thursday night, because he did say after the game when asked that they looked at the weather on Thursday night and they put in those direct snaps to Judkins so there would be less having to hand the ball to somebody. And so he alluded to that did affect the game plan. And, it's just where they're at right now. It doesn't mean that's where they need to be down the road, but the weather is probably not going to get much better going forward. So just put that into your game plan. I think now the direct snap, you can do some things off that. But it works. You get short. Let Judkins, he did that in college, pick his hole and go get the touchdown. And so just all the way around. Whether the weather totally dictated it, I think that was a good thing. And this is my fear. They know, they've seen what the Patriots have done and Mike Vrabel with the running game, that they would say, okay, we're not going to be able to run, so let's devise a passing game plan. That's almost what I felt like. I'm not saying that's what they did against the Steelers, but when Tomlin was talking up Judkins on how he's the next Nick Chubb type of talk, you said he's going to tell him all eyes on Judkins, shut him down and make Gabriel throw the ball. like that should be probably the same game plan I'd see from the Patriots this week. And so you can't outthink yourself. Stay with your bread and butter.
Now, they only threw the ball 18 times, but obviously much has been made about the struggles the wide receivers have had this season. Jerry Jeudy, I think, looked a little better in this game, but he didn't, not a lot of opportunities around when you only throw the ball 18 times and complete, I think, 13 of the 18. That's not a lot of opportunity out there for the wide receivers to do much. However, I think we did see something out of the Browns, Fred, and I'm interested to hear what you've heard about it. We saw some different kind of rotations with the wide receivers. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy's out there pretty much all the time, but we saw a lot less Isaiah Bond in this game, and we saw like Malachi Corley out there getting some touches, and we saw a little bit more of Thrash out there getting some run. And it seems like they've kind of switched up the wide receiver rotation a little bit. Have you heard them talk about that at all? And just give me your thoughts on that.
They haven't. They have Thrash listed as the starter, but I think he's been listed as the starter, even though he hasn't necessarily been out there much. After this game, Cedric Tillman's eligible to come back from his hamstring. I kind of get the idea. I chatted with him like a week or so ago, and he says, yeah, in a couple of weeks I'll be ready. So I think they're looking to that. But yeah, Corley, had a couple catches. I mean, when your leading wide receivers, Jeudy and Corley, had 2 catches for 17 yards each, that's not great production. Thrash had the longest pass play of the game for the Browns, 23 yards on his 1 catch. So the wide receivers had a total of 5 receptions. That's what they had against the Steelers. So, sure, when you only throw the ball 18 times, but I don't watch the film like some of the guys on our site do and that, but just in watching casually, I saw Gabriel miss a couple guys that were open or went through somewhere else, but I don't see a lot of separation from the wide receivers. I mean, I don't see them running wild down the field, and Gabriel's just not hitting them. So I think all the way around, they got to get much more production. And we talked to Jeudy about that today, and he said, he didn't have a whole lot to say about it. I did notice we didn't see that he was held out of practice today. It said with a knee on the injury report, but I thought I saw him out there. They said everybody was going to practice today, but Aiden Huntington, who has a concussion. And so I focused looking for Njoku and Conklin. But Jeudy, if he isn't able to go this week, that's one less receiver. But he seemed to be fine when we interviewed him before practice. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, he's got to do more. We asked him if he could have a breakout game, how much that would do for him and the offense. And he kind of downplayed it. But I mean, they need that. They need a threat, somebody that can get open deep and stretch. That would make the running game so much better. And I think the Patriots may force them to do that. And Patriots look like one of their weaknesses is in the passing game. They're one of the best rushing defenses, but they're near the bottom in passing defense. So, this could be a chance for Gabriel and the offense to stretch the field a little bit.
While the offense, again, the team put up 31 points, but offensively certainly didn't look like a juggernaut, but just looked more competent. They were able to sustain some drives. And obviously, the thing they did the best, Fred, was they capitalized on good situations that they were put in. Like that, ultimately, if the defense is going to play a game the way it played, it's good to see. I don't want to put down the offense. It's good to see them, when they're set up in positive situations, actually capitalize on those situations. And they did that in this entire game against Miami. But go to the other side of the ball, Fred, because defensively, if the offense didn't look like a powerhouse juggernaut, the defense certainly did. They had Tua in shambles out there. They had Jalen Waddle, held him to 1 catch. Obviously, Devon Achane broke off a couple of runs, but for the most part, again, they played pretty well against the run. Just defensively, I think at all 3 levels, Fred, they looked like everything was clicking for them.
Well, that was one of the things statistically they look really good. For a while, they were number one ranked. They go by the yards given up. You know, they're now ranked as number one again, 256 a game, which that's what they go on. But I'm more concerned with like points allowed and turnover takeaways and third down. And they really came out 1 out of 13 on third down. Red zone, like I said, they turned them away from the end zone, held them to 2 field goals. Really should have just been 1 field goal. And the turnover ratio now, they've moved up to the middle of the pack there. So that's what I think if you're going to get good play out of the front line. I mean, they got too many good players. And by the way, Mike Hall practiced today fully. First time he's listed as a full participate.
Let's
so
go.
I think unless they just decide to hold him out and through the bye, but I don't think so. If he practices full all week, I think he'll play. That's somebody else adding to the mix. But the cornerbacks, a little concerned about that, but I'm really feeling a lot better about it with Tyson Campbell. I mean, he's physical. He's only been here 10 days, and he's made an impact. He tracked down a Shane, or however you pronounce that, who's known as a world-class speedster, and Campbell was like a state champion track guy, and he ran him down and saved a touchdown. They didn't score, on that drive. So he looks like he can really be a nice piece at corner with Denzel Ward. And the safeties, I question. They made no plays last year. Juan Thornhill was brought in to be a ball hawk, had no interceptions 2 years. You had interceptions by Rayshon Jenkins, which was Grant Delpit supplied that by hitting Tua. Jenkins tipped the ball that Campbell returned for a 34-yard touchdown. And Jenkins recovered the fumble on Delpit's hit. And then Ronnie Hickman had an interception. You went into this game with only 2 interceptions as a team, and you had 3 in that game, and all by the secondary besides the fumble. So I'm feeling a lot better about the safeties. And even Donovan McMillan, the undrafted rookie, had a sack on like the last play for the Dolphins. So if you get the back end making plays when the defensive line is doing their thing and Schlesinger and the linebackers, I mean, it bodes well. It's going to keep them in games, especially this upcoming schedule, I think, has some very winnable games against offenses that aren't juggernauts. And the defense can do what they did against Miami. I think that can set the offense up well.
Now now you've stolen my thunder after Andrew Siciliano did it. I don't know if you saw the interview he did, but he interviewed Tyson Campbell, and he talked about that. And that was my takeaway. Everybody will talk about the Tyson Campbell pick six, an electric play. It was beautiful. Him tiptoeing the sideline and going down the field, but tracking down Devon Achane down the sideline on what all I have to do is have a flashback to last year, watching Juan freaking Thornhill just jog his way after a New Orleans Saint player down the sideline, and to watch Tyson Campbell just gun it down the sideline, catch Devon Achane, and pull him down, like you said, preventing Miami from scoring any points. That to me was the defensive play of the game, and they had 4 turnovers. But you're right. Rayshon Jenkins stood out in this game. He made play after play. Obviously, the pick. He also had the fumble recovery on the special teams play. Those guys were great. Up front there, Fred, you saw Myles Garrett break a little bit of a cold streak on the sack thing. But if we want to start talking about these players that are impressing us, you got to keep talking about these rookies. And I think it was Mason Graham in this game. He was a disruptor for the Cleveland Browns against the Miami Dolphins. He lived in the backfield in that game. I felt like Mason Graham really stood out in this game.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions and kind of negative about Mason Graham, and it's like that defensive tackle position, you don't get a lot. It's kind of like an offensive lineman. You don't really know anything unless they have a penalty or they do something wrong. But in looking at some of the tape, clips after, you could just see him running right by him. I could see him. I think he had a batted down pass. He was chasing, backs and people down the field, and that was a good word. He was a disruptor, and and if you have a guy like that inside, and if you can get Mike Hall back, the Buckeye Wolverine side by side, you really can get some disruption on the inside with Malik Collins, and even Shelby Harris, So I think that's a big area that the Browns have focused on here recent years, and it could really pay big dividends for a long time. And so I like what I saw against Graham. I know what he's being asked to do is take up blockers and try to penetrate, and but I think it can't be undersold that this rushing defense last year gave up about 129 yards a game. He has something to do with it. Him and Mike Collins on the inside have really helped, stop the run. They're right now, fourth, allowing 82 yards a game in rushing defense. That's 40, 50 yards less than what they did last year with not a lot of change. I mean, you had Delvin Tomlinson last year and Shelby Harris and Maurice Hurst. Now you got Graham in there, and he's been in there almost every play. He's kind of an Iron Man, young legs. And Malik Collins. Those two guys have been major upgrades on the inside and helping in the running game, as well as getting some push in the interior pass rush.
Well, again, fun to talk about, Fred, because all you and I have gotten to talk about our losses so far. The one time they won, you were on vacation. So what a great time talking about a win. I do want to pause and remind everybody really quick. If you see the little QR code in the top left-hand corner of the screen, that's a direct link to become an OBR subscriber. Get you over to the OBR.com. You can hit subscribe for all the best written Cleveland Browns content. Plus, you've got the OBR streaming network here going up pretty much every night, every week with Browns coverage. So get over, scan the QR code, become an OBR subscriber. It is the oldest and largest independent Browns coverage site in all of Cleveland, and you want to be a part of it. So get over there and subscribe to the OBR. All right, Fred. Now it's time to start looking at what we've heard this week and to start looking ahead to their next game against the New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel and that crew. And to do that, we're going to welcome in our special guest this week. It's a guy you've done a lot of work with, Fred, and we're very excited to have him on from WTAM 1100. Let's bring him in right now. It's the one and only BloomDaddy.
The one and only, huh?
Well, you're the only BloomDaddy I know. That's for
yeah.
Sure.
Well, yeah, there you go. David Bloomquist, Bloomquist, dad, my number one job. It made sense at the time. I've been wearing that name for now, close to 20 years.
Well, you took that was my first question. Tell everybody how you came up with that name, because everybody asked me that, as far as all the way around.
Well, it was a buddy. I was out of my friend group. I was the first one to have a child. So everybody always called me Bloomer, Bloomy, because of Bloomquist. And my one buddy, James Carson, started calling me BloomDaddy because I was a dad. I was a new dad. And all of a sudden it kind of stuck. And I thought, you know what? When I segued from television into radio, I mean, who's going to remember the David Bloomquist show? My mom. That's it. Okay. And I always thought, the Glenn Beck show. God, that's boring. Rush Limbaugh. Rush had a cool name, though, but everybody goes with their name, and it's so boring. And I wanted to go with the name to kind of give people a sense of my personality. I'm not curing cancer. I've got an opinion. I'm an average guy with a cool job, and I like to have fun. I like to think that I've made talk radio, at least my show, fun, where it's not serious all the time. So it's not politics all the time. And so I went with BloomDaddy. And, I got to admit, when I hear a congressman or a senator say, BloomDaddy, I kind of chuckle inside. The only guy who wouldn't do it was Trump. I interviewed Trump twice, and he called me David every time. So
no fun. It. No fun.
Yeah.
He's got to call you BloomDaddy. What are we doing here?
So disappointed.
Well, I wanted to have you on. I've been doing stuff with TAM about 11 years, and you took over for Trevisano, who's kind of a legend here in town. And and you took me right in, and is this your 4th year?
Yeah, believe it or not, 4 years
already. And so I'm on with you a couple times a week and pregame show and all that. And so, like I was telling him that usually I prep everybody on questions and stuff. And he said, "Hey, what do I need to know?" I said, "Oh yeah, I kind of forgot that because we talk so much. I figured you already know what I'm going to ask you."
I know.
But you're usually grilling me. So I'm turning it around a little bit. I'm glad you came on. We like to have fun.
Yeah.
We like to let the people get to know you a little bit. Most of the time when I go on interviews, probably with you, it's just business as usual. You answer questions and goodbye, good luck. So tell us a little bit, your background, where you've been. I know you played baseball at Kent State. You have 3 sons, I think, play baseball in college. One's still playing. Kind of tell us all that and tell us your journey to get to WTAM up here in Cleveland.
So grew up in a town of 300. Dad was a coal miner, hunt and fish. I mean, that's what I did. Played baseball. When you grow up in a town of 300, there's not a lot of people to hang out with. You know what I mean? So it was hunting and fishing. I'm a country boy, and graduate high school, loved baseball. Actually, never played at Kent State. My biggest regret is I quit the team. I walked on. I was a walk-on. And, when you're 19 years old and you get mad over something that the coach says to you, it's my biggest regret in life. You make bad decisions, and I did. And I wish I could take it back, but, obviously you can't. Danny Hall was the coach at the time. He just retired from Georgia Tech, had an illustrious career, gave me a great opportunity, but at the time, under the circumstances, I didn't see it the way he was presenting it to me, and I ended up walking away. But played sandlot baseball till I was 36. Well, until my wife at the time was complaining about it so much that I finally walked away from it. But played with a lot of minor leaguers, some ex-major leaguers, stuff like that, all the way till I was in my 30s. And, of course, I passed it on to my boys. My 2 oldest boys played Division II baseball. The youngest one right now is starting middle infielder at Wright State. And it's really cool, this D1 journey. I mean, last year, they got to go to Auburn, Ole Miss, North Carolina State. Unfortunately, he had a great year as a true freshman. He pulled his hamstring in the championship game and didn't get to play against Vanderbilt when Wright State upset Vanderbilt and, really shook up the College Baseball World Series. He was injured. But this year, it should be a fun time. But, as far as my journey, I started off in television. I graduated from Kent State, went to every Browns game from 88 through 91 because a hallmate, his family had season tickets, but they never went. So it was me and 4 buddies, 35-yard line, about 30 rows back. It was phenomenal. Old Municipal Stadium for baseball games, skipping classes on a Tuesday. I'd be one of 4,000 people in a 75,000 seat stadium watching some pretty bad baseball. But graduate Kent State, got a job back home in Steubenville, Ohio at WTOV9 as a weekend sports guy. And then, I went to Charleston, West Virginia, worked for an ABC affiliate there, missed family back home, got married, had kids, and worked in that Steubenville, Wheeling, West Virginia market in television for 15 years. Loved it, did sports. I was a morning news anchor, pretty much, did everything. And I took the morning shift so I wouldn't miss a minute of my kids' lives. The bad side of that is when you're getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, your kids don't want to be around you because you're unbearable. I mean, you're always agitated. You're grumpy. To make a long story short, didn't like where the management of the television station was going, and I had a choice: either stay there and be okay with being terrible or leave. So I left, went into radio, little AM station in Wheeling that was started by a guy by the name of Bob Fitzsimmons, which you guys might know this name because he's the only attorney to ever beat the NFL. He represented Mike Webster, CTE, and Fitzsimmons started a little AM station, worked for him. iHeart came calling, and then look, I had a great gig. I mean, I was syndicated. I was doing it out of Wheeling, West Virginia. I'm syndicated in Pittsburgh, Akron, Parkersburg. There was like 5 or 6 markets. I'm filling in nationwide for iHeart in Miami, in Columbus, in Vegas, Joe Pag show nationally. I had a good gig. And all of a sudden, TAM in Cleveland comes calling after the unfortunate passing of Triv. And I said, look, I'm good. Like, go find somebody else. My friends and family are here. I'm okay. I still had Braylon at that time, was sophomore in high school. And they were relentless. For whatever reason, they wanted me. And I to this day, I can't figure it out, because I don't think I'm any more special than anybody else out there doing stuff. But it's kind of funny. They kept throwing stuff at me, and I kept going, nah. And then all of a sudden it got to the point where I'm looking in the mirror going, you're an idiot if you don't do this. And it's been the best decision of my life. The one thing that I did demand was, I said, look, I'm not going to miss my son's life. You know, he plays baseball last 2 years of school. So I need to take a lot of days off in March and April. And they were like, no problem. And I said, I'm going to need a studio in my house, because sometimes I do that. I do the show remote. And I said, when he's having a game, I want to do it from home so I can be at the game and not miss anything. And they were like, no problem. And that was it. I mean, that's what brought me in. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. I mean, getting to cover these teams and doing shows from Progressive and Rocket Arena and, you know, and everything. It's been, and I've always loved this area. I mean, I dated a girl from Bay Village for 3 years when I was at Kent State. You know, it's kind of funny, quick story, and because I know I'm rambling, but quick story for you. Growing up in a town of 300, honest to God, seafood to me was fried fish at the Lafferty Volunteer Fire Department every Friday. That was seafood to me. Like, that was, I mean, you know, fried shrimp, fried fish. So I'm dating a girl from Bay Village. Her name's Kendra. She takes me to a seafood place, orders crab legs, orders all this stuff. I had no idea. When I first tried to eat crab, and I don't know if you guys had this, but, you know, I was 20, and the amount of meat I got out of that first crab leg and the amount of time I put into getting that meat out of it, I thought to myself, I'm never eating crab again in my life. And now I love it because I got good at it. But, you know, my heart's always been in this area. So it was it's hard to leave home, and it's hard to leave a place when you're happy. But one thing my boss, Keith Kennedy, said, I'll never forget it, when we were in negotiations, I said, why would I leave? I'm happy. And he goes, there's a difference between being happy and being really happy. And he was right, because, I mean, I love everything about it.
Well, we're glad to have you, and I'm glad you chose to be able to come on with us tonight. I want to shift a little bit. We've been talking about last week's game. We want to talk about this week's game, you know, with the Patriots. You know, like right off, I know you're not out there every day because your time, he's on 3 to 7 every day here in Cleveland. But as far as, what do you see as a pathway to win this week with the Patriots?
I don't think there is one. I mean, look, Mike Vrabel knows everything about this team. He's like Connor Stallions 2.0. He coached every position, I think, other than quarterback last year. He knows every blocking scheme. He knows every strength, every weakness. This team's good. Drake May's playing good. It's in New England, and you got a coach who knows as much about this Browns team as Kevin Stefanski does. So I don't think there is, unless there's a monumental collapse by the Patriots. I hate to be negative, but that's just how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, we went in the season, you knew they were starting over with a new coach, and you kind of thought, yeah, they're going to probably be pretty good, but I didn't think they were going to be 5-2 at this point. Yeah. You know, when you look at this team, but they're definitely an up and ascending team. The Browns have to almost play a perfect game like they did last week. Obviously, the Dolphins are reeling, but can they build on that defense and that type of the positive is Judkins, Stefanski, whether it's weather or not, decided to run the ball 33 times. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about that. It just seems like, you know, that's your best bet. Shorten the game and try to get something going on the ground, and then let the defense see if they can make plays, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the way to win. I mean, I still don't know what we have in Dylan Gabriel, to be honest with you. I mean, because Minnesota's a hard judge. He played well, but that's a crazy scheming, fly all over the place defense. In Pittsburgh, where we haven't won in the regular season since he was 3.5. That's a hard one to judge. And then in a wind tunnel, so I still don't know what we have at quarterback. I do know what we have at tailback. I also know that our offensive line is not real good. So I don't know if we'll be able to sustain that against the Patriots, but I do hope we try. I mean, I think that we have given up on the run far too early against Pittsburgh. I mean, we talked about it, Fred. My goodness. You're down, 9-3 at halftime, and you basically give up on the run, and you say, well, it's because we were behind? What is that? I mean, there's sometimes, Kevin does things sometimes where I'll never sit here and confess to be a football guru, but there's some blatant things that I think just an average football fan can sit there and see and go, okay, we should be doing this, and we don't do it. And I've never quite been able to understand that.
I want to push back a little bit on you, BloomDaddy. And I want to throw out there, yes, this is a Patriots team that is 5-2. They've had a great start to their year, but their schedule has been the exact polar opposite of the Cleveland Browns schedule.
Good point.
It is easily the easiest schedule in the NFL. They have played trash teams all the way through. Now, they do have a very good win against Buffalo. They also have a terrible loss against the Raiders. The Raiders are awful.
Right.
And the teams they've beat, the Saints, the Dolphins, the Jets. No, maybe not the Jets. I don't remember if they played the Jets yet, but if they have, they've beat them. It has been a very, very easy schedule for the Patriots. And I understand what you're saying about Vrabel, but it's the same coaches for sure that Vrabel's used to. It's a very different team, though. Even defensively, it's a very different team. Obviously, offensively, it's a much different team this year than what they had last year. So, I certainly don't. I wouldn't expect the Browns to come out and have any kind of an easy time with the Patriots in New England, because nobody does. But I just wonder if there isn't an element of the Vrabel being here last year thing that is maybe a little bit overblown, as far as like kind of feeling like that's just an automatic pathway to a win for New England.
Well, I mean, all these coaches, I mean, everybody in the NFL shares. I mean, coaches go from staff to staff and stuff like that. But the thing, from what I understand, I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, he helped in scouting who we drafted. So, I mean, he knows what they're capable of. I'm pretty sure he had a hand in every position group on that team, this side of quarterbacks and running backs. I'm just saying he knows his team inside and out. He knows what they're capable of. So I think that's a distinct advantage for him. And when I look at this Browns team, I look at quarterback, below average. Running back room, like it, above average. Okay, I'll even say good. Offensive line, below average. Wide receivers,
bad.
Yes. Defense, seems like we're really good till another team gets in a red zone, or you take a look at some of the stats, specifically passing. We're toward the bottom of the league. So I don't, and this is a defense that, we could go back to the last 2 years, historically has not traveled well. So I'm kind of throwing all those things together. And really it all comes down to me is the Browns got to prove to me something. Beating a team that's reeling, that stinks in the Dolphins, here where they're a better passing team, and obviously the odds were stacked against them more than us because they throw the ball more. That didn't prove anything to me. I mean, that doesn't make any difference to me. Yeah, it's a win. That's great. We can talk about it. But, okay, you go into New England and beat them, now you've got my attention. Now you've got my attention, and then we'll see what you do from there, because the next couple of games, what do we have after that? Vegas and the Jets? Is that the way it goes?
There's a bye, and then the Jets.
Yeah.
And then, you have 4 of the next 6 games are very winnable, and I'm including the Patriots as a loss. And to what we were saying earlier, we talked about those first 6 games as being a gauntlet, and they kind of jumped the gun by getting rid of Flacco, after 4 games and throwing Gabriel to the Wolves. But if those first 6 games would have been after the next 6 games, they could have won. They might have been 4-2 to start, the season, and we'd be talking completely different. And so we talked about, the Dolphins are reeling, but how many times have we seen, I told you in the pregame show, I picked the Browns, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them find a way to lose this game today. And that's what the Browns do. So to their credit, they took care of a game that they probably should have won anyway. But so many times we've seen them not. But now you have a little run where you have some winnable games here. And I've said going in the bye, this is a huge game for them because, 3-5 isn't great. But if you're 3-5 with 2 wins in a row, getting a bye, and then coming back to play the Jets when you return, hey, who knows? With this division, who thought the Ravens were going to be 1-5? Who thought Joe Burrow was going to be out basically for the season? And the Steelers haven't played their tough part of the schedule yet. So anything can happen.
Well, very true. But Fred and Mike, we're all on this. We could disagree on, whatever Vrabel means and everything else. But I think we're all in the same boat when we sit here and we talk about the Browns. This team doesn't know how to win. And until they prove to me, because we can sit here and count wins. Oh, the Jets is it. How many times have we been burned doing that with this Cleveland Browns franchise? You start believing in them. That's why after the Browns lose, I could go 4 hours never saying a word, answering phone calls. When the Browns win, I don't get a damn call because it's almost like fans don't want to get excited because they know the letdown's coming. I can honestly see us going into New England, winning. Mike, to your point, you think we got a better – winning and then falling on our face against the Raiders and the Jets. I can see – that would not surprise me. So until that stops, I can't sit here and go, I'm feeling good about things. No, I'm not until this team proves, this franchise proves that they can win. And it comes down to culture. I've said it 1,000 times. When your culture is losing, it's my biggest fear with this rookie class, that these guys are winners. I mean, you're talking Mason Graham, won. Quinshawn Judkins, won. Samson, won. I mean, they're coming from programs that win, and all of a sudden they're surrounded by losing on a team that I think has very little veteran leadership. It can envelop you, and it can suck you right into a hole you can't get out of, and I hope it doesn't, because I think this freshman class, if you will, I think it's the greatest draft in team history. I think it's something you can absolutely build off. But man, I don't want to see the culture, take them down the same tube that we've seen other guys go down. If that makes any sense.
It's over and over and same old thing. But that's they play the Jets after the bye, and then the Ravens come in, and for whatever reason, the Browns have always played them well at home, and then they go to the Raiders, and they have the Titans, the Bears. They have winnable games, but it doesn't mean they're a winning team. It's just what they do with those opportunities. I wanted to ask you this, and then Mike, if you had something too. I was like, what would you do at quarterback? I know you like Sanders come before the draft. We talked forever about it, and then they took him. Has your thoughts changed with him because he was picked in the 5th round? Or, what do you think they should do now that they've basically jettisoned their 2 veterans and now are sitting there with the 2 rookies?
I think they should play him. I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at the season. I don't look at the season as a winnable season. I don't look at this as a playoff team. So I'm preparing already for next year, and I'm going to play him. I'm going to give him a couple of starts. I'm going to let Dylan Gabriel have another start, but no matter how well he plays, I'm going to put Shedeur Sanders in if it were me, because I want to see what I got. I want to see if all those experts who ranked him as a 1st round or a 2nd round talent were right or wrong. Okay. And I want to try to judge what I'm going to do. Now, everything to me has changed for next year. There's no quarterback where I'm sitting there. If I'm the Browns with 2 first-round picks, I got to have this guy. Arch Manning, no way. Aller, I mean, obviously no. I mean, if you're telling me Lenoris Sellers is the best out there, And honestly, I'd use those 2 first-round picks on offensive linemen. That doesn't sound sexy, but we are going nowhere unless we address the line. And if there's not a great quarterback out there, go line. You've got your backs. You got to get that line going. So I would play him. I want to see what I've got in him, and I do want to see him out there and see if he can handle it, see if he can hit some shots down the field. Because one thing I asked you this the other day on air was Gabriel missing targets downfield. I can't remember how you answered it, but like I had another guy go and look at film, and he goes, "Man, there are some open receivers that Gabriel's missing downfield." And my buddy was in the upper deck, and he's like, "Dude, there's guys open. You know, what's going on here?" I like Dylan's moxie. I like the way he kind of commands the offense a little bit. I still don't know what we've got in him, but I obviously don't know what we have in Shedeur either because we haven't seen him. I mean, Mike, do you want to see him or no?
You know what? I may be in a little bit of a different boat because I'm not rushing to see Shedeur Sanders. If we don't see him this year, it doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Do you like Dylan?
I don't know that either. But
we're in the same boat there then. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It's easy for us to sit on this show, guys, and I think say, I don't think this is a winning season. You can't go into the locker room and look Myles Garrett in the face and say that. You can't go into the locker room and look Joel Bitonio in the face and say, what's that? Yeah, Myles really cares. Yeah, I do think Myles cares a lot.
We're on different ends of the spectrum there.
We are on different ends of the spectrum there. But take Myles out of it. You can't say it to, what are you going to go up to Joel Bitonio and say, "Hey, I know you're getting ready to retire, but we don't think this is going to be a winning season." You can't, we can talk about it that way. And they can even kind of think about it high level that way, but that can't be what the coaching staff is doing. That can't be what the game day stuff is doing, because that's how you take a locker room where you're trying to build something and you totally ruin that. So you have to do that in a certain kind of way. Now, again, if you are seeing the same thing over and over and not a lot of growth out of Dylan Gabriel and you want to throw Shedeur Sanders out there, heck yeah. I mean, if they're 2-9, yes, let's start rolling some things out there to see what we got. But I did, this was the news. I don't even know that this is news anymore, guys. It feels like every time Shedeur Sanders' name gets said, it's got to be like breaking news, like somebody sneezed Shedeur Sanders, and we have to break the news about it. Yeah. But I think it was today that it was the report of Shedeur is not getting first team reps next to Dylan Gabriel. And I maybe I read that and I go, well, yeah, because he's not on the first team. But is that news to anybody else? Is that something that when you saw that report, you went, whoa, that's crazy?
Well, that came from Joe. That came from Stefanski today. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that's, Mike, what you're pointing out is the reason why a lot of teams stayed away from him. I don't know anybody other than the Browns that had Dylan Gabriel ranked higher than Shedeur Sanders. I don't know. I never heard of anybody. I might have missed it. Never heard of anybody. So I'm just going off of everybody thought this guy was legit, and then all of a sudden he's not legit. And I think we all know it's because of what he brings, that circus-like atmosphere. We all know Colin Kaepernick would have been a capable backup for years there. Nobody wanted the circus. We all know that Tim Tebow would have been a capable backup. Nobody wanted the circus, the religious circus that followed Tim and the cameras and, Hollywood and everything else. And I think Shedeur got the same thing. And a lot of it was justified. I mean, he brought stuff on himself. Look at, the way he mimed stuff, Fred, we talked about it, but I still want to see what this kid has. I want to see it before we pass on him. I know I heard some rumors of people saying, well, we should offer him in a trade because, Gabriel's panning out. I don't know if the three of us, I can't sit here and say Gabriel's panning out.
No, I have my take is both those guys are going to be on this roster probably for the next 4 years because they're on a rookie contract, which is gold. And I don't know if it'll be 1A, 1B, or clearly I still think most of the stuff I read about Gabriel was they thought he was going to be a long-term backup. I can still see him being a long-term backup, could be a good backup. And right now, Sanders is here and Gabriel's here. Now, we haven't got to see him since training camp, but I think the Browns think that Sanders has a higher ceiling and can pass Gabriel. And I do think that they will find time at some point. I do think these next few games, if they become 2-7, 2-8, they're out of it. We switch to Sanders and let him play the final 6-7 games. They're going to get to see the guy. But I really think the Browns, when they say they want to develop him, it's not the circus and that stuff. They don't want to throw him out there and have what happened in the Rams. Did you see the preseason game when he looked lost because he had third string blockers and he's running back and he gets sacked for 24-yard loss? That's what he did at Colorado. They want all that out of his system and they want him to be successful. And I can see them starting him against the Titans, or I don't know if it'll be as soon to the Jets, but where he has a whole week to practice at home,
right?
A home game maybe, and put him in the most pristine chance to look good, because I do think they want him to be successful. I get stuff saying they don't want him to be. That's the farthest from the truth. If they hit on either one of these guys, it'll be gold. And
Absolutely.
You don't have to draft a quarterback next year, and you can get 2 tackles or a wide receiver and a tackle or something, and finally move on.
Well, and the other thing, guys, Dillon Gabriel's a 3rd-round quarterback. That's where you take a guy that you think, well, maybe he can pan out, but maybe he's a career backup, but he's a 3rd-round quarterback. And I know what the ratings had on Shedeur Sanders, but the facts are the facts, and Shedeur Sanders is a 5th-round quarterback. That's a project. That is a project quarterback, and maybe he's going to be the next Tom Brady type guy that got drafted really late in the draft and panned out and turned into a superstar. But we have no idea what that is yet. And again, it's very clear that they think he is raw, that they think he has some things that he has to work out in this game, and they're rolling with Dillon Gabriel to start. And we'll see. And we'll see what happens. And I don't think anything precludes. I mean, you know, I don't disagree with you, BloomDaddy, on go ahead and take two linemen in the 1st round. I probably would throw a wide receiver in there if there's a good one available. Because
I could do that.
Carnell Tate would look good in a Browns uniform.
Yeah.
Carnell Tate would look great in a big O lineman, and let's roll out there again and see what happens. But again, these aren't the unfortunate thing for Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, guys, is that when they're in the situation they're in, you have to treat them not like project players. You have to treat them. We have to talk about Dillon Gabriel as if he was a 1st-round pick, because he's a starting quarterback in the NFL in his rookie year. We have to talk about them like that. And there is a bit of unfairness to that.
Well, and we're also forgetting, well, we're not forgetting, but this is a franchise that's made a living off of chewing up quarterbacks like a wood chipper. I mean, 42 with different people in different positions. And then when you get one, Baker Mayfield, okay, you let him go, or Flacco, you know, this organization as a whole, when it comes to quarterbacks, has been a black hole. And so, you know, they're battling that. I had a caller the other day, maybe you guys, he seemed like he knew what he was talking about. He said we're currently paying 8 quarterbacks. He said Dorian Thompson-Robinson's still on a payroll. Who's the other quarterback that's on the practice squad right now?
Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi, Deshaun. You've got the 2 we've talked about, Shedeur and Dillon. So there's 5. Are we still paying Flacco? Would that be 6?
So it's we actually went over this. So I saw the post that you talked about. We went over this.
Yeah.
There's a difference between they are paying some guys, but there's some guys that are just cap hits.
Okay.
They're dead cap money.
But they're like 8. You know, with a franchise that's gone through 42 since 1999. It's like we've got to look. You can't win at the Pee Wee level, the high school level, the college level, or the NFL level without a quarterback. So we're not going to be talking about winning with this franchise until we get that solved, and we have not been able to get that solved since Bernie.
So, BloomDaddy, Fred, real quick before we get ready to wrap things up here, let's go back to this game that's happening on Sunday and the New England Patriots. And when you kind of look at what the Patriots have done this year, again, they're 5-2. Drake May has looked very good to start. He's completing 75% of his passes, about 1,800 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. He's really run that offense well. You got Stephon Diggs over there. Plus, you've got some other wide receivers stepping up. They do not run the ball well at all. You've got, I think, Ramondre Stevenson is their leading rusher with like 240 yards on the year.
Quarterback second.
Yeah. Drake May is second. I know everybody was excited about Travion Henderson. He hasn't done a whole heck of a lot yet. So they're not a big-time run-the-football type team. This is a team that's going to want to pass the ball as much as possible. And so how do you approach this game? I think when you look back at this Miami game, Fred, you and I have talked about this a lot. I think we saw Jim Schwartz dial up some extra blitz packages that he doesn't normally dial up. That was kind of refreshing, and it seemed to reinvigorate the Browns. Do you kind of keep up the blitz packages and get after Drake May as much as you can? Or how do you think the Browns should approach defending this New England offense that's much better than anybody thought they were going to be coming in?
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. to me, you try to pressure with 4 and keep everybody back in coverage. You keep May can't run. If that's the case, we should be able to get pressure with our front 4. Now you've got all those guys back in coverage, young quarterback. He's going to have to make a couple different reads. I just think you keep everything in front of you. You just mentioned, Mike, that they don't have much of a running game, so maybe you don't have to respect that as much. You tell those 4 guys, you pin your ears back, and you go. And then keep everybody back and keep everything in front of you. I mean, that's the approach I would take.
Yeah, I like that. We talked about this. Tyson Campbell already has won me over Greg Newsome. Didn't take much. And, you got him and Ward out there. I think they can get on Diggs. And like you said, you get that rush. I think Mike Hall's going to play this week. He was a full participant today, first time. You can get fresh legs in there, another guy to come after the quarterback. Schwartz did show me by switching it up. He never played zone. He played 33 out of 36 plays on passing downs in zone, and it totally confused the Dolphins. So now, the Patriots have that on tape to look at. But I think you can confuse the young quarterback. Maybe you can get some more turnovers. And Ward was talking about that today, is that they come in bunches and now we're all ball hawks. So that's what I like to hear. I think the defense, once again, is going to, if they're going to have a chance to win, they're going to have to do their thing like they did last week and keep the Patriots from putting up a lot of points and giving your challenged offense a chance by giving them shorter fields. The offense did take advantage of the short fields 3 times last week.
All right, BloomDaddy, we're going to let you get out of here real quick, though.
Yep.
Best crab legs in Cleveland.
Oh, seafood. Oh, man, Mike, you put me on the spot. I eat everywhere around town. I'm a total food. Wow, you hit me.
I mean, you brought up the crab legs.
Oh, I know, but that was just way too quick. Where do I go for seafood? Okay, I need time to think on that, but I'm going to tell you this. Go to Sweet Fork Wilson's if you want the best barbecue. And then Bruno's for Italian, by far. But seafood. Oh, you know what? I go down to the flats all the time. I actually don't get the crab legs, though. I get the walleye at Mike. You got me on this one. I'm
nailed it.
Lindy's Lake House.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Alley Cat, I think, down there. Real good seafood. All right, how about a question for you guys? Who's this over my shoulder? Can you see it?
We can't see it because there's a bright, shining light.
Right?
Commerce
Comet. The Commerce Comet, Fred. Who is it? Triple Crown winner, 1956. It's the Mick.
1956.
Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle.
I played Mexico a summer, and they called me the Mexican word for Mickey Mantle.
Miguel Mantle. All right.
Well, no, not his name, but I had long blonde hair, and what are they talking about? And they go,
I can't see you with long blonde hair. You're going to show me old photos.
Yeah, I had hair.
It reminds me of those old Sports Center commercials where John Clayton was do his spot, and then he'd have the ponytail, and he'd be in his room. Yeah. That's what Fred does.
Hey, guys, thank you.
Yep. Hey, BloomDaddy, thank you so much. Check out BloomDaddy, WTAM, 3 to 7 every day. It was great having you on. Great talking Browns football with you. And I'm sure we'll catch up again down the road.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Fred.
Thanks, bud.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you. Have a good night.
Big shout out to BloomDaddy for coming on with us again. Check him out on WTAM. I always love talking about WTAM. I meant to say it while he was here. It's where I got my broadcasting start, working with Casey Coleman and Bill Wills back in the early 2000s. Loved Casey. He got me hooked up as just kind of an intern there, and had a great couple years working at WTM. So always fun to talk about. I was
Casey's stat guy on Browns the year when he called the Browns with Belichick, and Yep, he was a great guy.
Yeah, he was a great guy. By the way, Doug Deacon says hi, Fred. I nudged him on the shoulder and told him that you said hi. I was eating dinner next to him tonight. And he said a hello to you as well. His face lit up when I said your name.
That's cool. Yeah, I did the stats for him and Donovan, and before that, Nev Chandler and Casey Coleman, and long time. So, yeah, Deke's a good guy. He's always got something to say. He's got the greatest stories you ever would hear. But yeah, it's great. So yeah, it's fun. I had another good night tonight, and I wouldn't say I was a hippie rock star. I just had hair. I had hair that. Look at my Hall of Fame picture. You can see it. It's just over my ears,
Listen, Fred, look at my Hall of Fame picture. All right, Fred.
Well, I gotta drop that
Fred.
once in a while. How many times do you ever get to say that?
0 for me. Thank you for rubbing that in.
But yeah, no, it's good. I enjoy that. He's a good guy. We get together well, and next week we got another radio guy, former TV guy, Andy Baskin, 92.3 The Fan's going to join us. So that'll be another big night on Inside the Browns Beat. So
yeah, that's going to be great.
We're just trying to dial them up for you.
It's going to be great. We've got more in there coming up as well. More great guests. I've loved looking in the comments and seeing your favorite places to go get seafood. Pickle Bill's keeps coming up. Blue Point. I got to throw Sam and Dave's out there. If you're on the west side, you got to go to Sam and Dave's. Great seafood at Sam and Dave's in Rocky River. Lots of great seafood places. Who knew that was going to be a topic tonight? But yes, like you said, Fred, tune in next week, Inside the Browns Beat, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Andy Baskin from 92.3 The Fan will be joining us to talk about the Cleveland Browns after that game against New England, hopefully talking about a surprise win heading into the bye week. So make sure you tune in for that. Stay tuned with us here tonight. You got a little less than an hour, but I'll be right back with Garage Beers. We're going to celebrate this Browns victory. We're going to talk about the start of the Cavaliers season, and we've got our special guest from the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Rinkside reporter, Dave Metzold, is going to talk about the start of the Blue Jackets season with us, and it's been a crazy start. So you want to tune in for that and make sure you've got everything going there. That starts at 9 o'clock. Grab a beer, come hang out with us. But that's going to do it for us here on Inside the Browns Beat. Get over to the OBR.com, hit subscribe. Make sure whether you're watching us tonight on YouTube or Twitch or wherever, hit subscribe, hit follow, and share with your friends. Tell them to come hang out with us on Inside the Browns Beat because we've got nothing but great stuff coming for you. That's going to do it for us. He is Fred Greetham. I am Michael Keefe. We will be back same time next week. Until then, as always, go Browns.